fancy graphics, actual notes, a wannabe podcaster mic. We gotta answer the big question. What could have been done to prevent this whole debacle? In my opinion, not very much. The automotive industry is completely reactive. They never fix anything until the problem is so massive that they just can't ignore it anymore. I made this chart of different eras of automotive development versus unemployment. This is for the US, but should be pretty similar for most of the audience. Starting in the 60s, you had kind of the golden age of the automobile. We'll call this the vice grip garage era. If you want to be an automotive YouTuber, that's the sweet spot. There's a massive amount of survivor bias, but generally speaking, everybody loves these cars. By the early 70s, the party was over. New safety regulations made cars bigger and uglier. New emissions regulations brought us smog pumps, catalytic converters, charcoal canisters, feedback carburetors, electronic ignition. On top of that was a long recession, an oil embargo, and a decade of throwing the baby out with the bathwater in a mad rush to build smaller, cheaper cars. Luckily, things turned around in the 80s. Electronic fuel injection had a bit of a rocky start, but once we got it figured out and got a handle on the other emission systems, we really entered what I think is another golden age of the automobile. And I'll bet dollars to donuts in the next 10 years, these cars are going to replace the 60s muscle cars. Just like the muscle cars replaced the hot rods, and the hot rods replaced the speedsters, and the speedsters replaced the penny farthing bicycles or whatever came before them. By the mid-2000s, history was primed to repeat itself. We had a bunch of new emissions and safety regulations that brought us things like high-speed CAN bus networks that were really safety systems designed to reduce the latency for airbags, but ended up infecting every corner of our cars. New materials like high-strength steel and aluminum, they were great for weight reduction, but they really complicated crash repairs. And you hear all the time about cars being totaled from what used to be basically a fender bender. Engines got smaller and a lot more complicated. Suddenly, everything had 4 timing chains and 2 turbos. We got a bunch of fun new acronyms: VVT, DOD, AFM, GDI. In the middle of that was a massive recession that nearly killed the entire automotive industry. Luckily, it was too big to fail. It took almost a decade to get a handle on things, but there was a very brief time where cars were sort of okay, and it looked pretty promising. But that came to a screeching halt in 2020. And since then, we've been in what I call the boogeyman era. And I haven't worked on a lot of these cars. I don't have a lot of first-hand experience with them. But my observation is that the prices skyrocketed and the quality at best stayed the same and at worst actually went down. It certainly seems like we are repeating the cycle. And there's been an endless stream of excuses for why that's happening. I suspect those excuses are also there to distract us from another big problem, which is that despite what the official numbers are telling us, the economy certainly seems a lot more shaky than what anybody wants to admit. I guess the point, if I have one, is that things change frequently and not always for the best. And there's just not that much we can do about it. Mostly these are reactions to outside forces over which we have very little control. It's easy to be pessimistic. We need to remember that things are still pretty good. Amazingly good, in fact. So, compared to the average car in 1965, the average car today lasts 2 times longer, has 2 times more power, unless it's a pickup truck, then it has 4 times more power. It uses half the fuel, creates 1/10 of the pollution, and it's 9 times safer. I mean, we've had some rough times, for sure. But generally, the trend has always been positive in terms of reliability. And there's no reason to think that it won't get better. there's a lot of well-justified skepticism about electric vehicles. Think whatever you want, but production EVs have been around for over a decade now, and it's looking like statistically they're more reliable than internal combustion engine cars. And surprisingly, at least it was surprising to me, they're longer lasting. The average EV battery life is now longer than the average vehicle life. And multiple companies are claiming 20 years of usable life on a lithium battery pack, which is incredible. Anyway, that's enough. Thanks for watching. And thanks a lot to the guys who throw in a few bucks over on Patreon. I really appreciate that. Thanks to them, this channel, with its meandering content and less than robust upload schedule, is sustainable, unlike owning a 2013 Chevy Equinox.